Welcome to Protiviti's Fintech Innovation Series, part of our Modern CIO Dilemma campaign, where Fintech leaders dive into the tech behind their breakthroughs, from solving complex challenges to building secure, scalable solutions for the future of payments. In this series, we'll explore not only how innovation is achieved in a fast-paced business and technical landscape, but also what today's leaders can teach us about navigating the pressures of modernization, resilience, and growth.
Hi, I'm Melissa Desjardins, a director within Protiviti's technology consulting solution. Really excited today to have a conversation with Saujin Yi, the CEO and founder of LiquidTrust, and to really talk through a number of really relevant topics to our industry and our business. So, Saujin, welcome. I'm going to pause here. Would love for you to kick us off with a quick introduction of yourself and tell us a little bit about LiquidTrust.
Great. Thank you so much, Melissa. I am Saujin Yi. I'm the founder and CEO of LiquidTrust. We create safer and simpler global payment solutions for small businesses and the financial institutions and platforms that serve them. We have two ways for them to pay, a simple cross-border payment solution, as well as what we call the protective pay, where we have embedded our technology called the micro escrow innovation that allows people to protect their payments with conditions instead of just having it pay one side or the other. The reason why we believe this is really important is that small businesses are taking all the risk in a transaction. Usually they pay first and hope that they get their stuff, or vice versa. They send their goods and services, invoice, and hope that they get paid and paid on time. And it's really amplified when it's cross-border, where there is no recourse to get that money back. And so what we've done is to introduce a new payment method that allows us to protect the small businesses and the amounts of money that are, could be devastating with non-payment or non-delivery. And we're really excited about introducing this product through our financial institution partners as well as our platform partners.
Terrific. I thought that was a great overview of LiquidTrust. I'm curious, what inspired you to think of this concept for your company?
Yeah, so our team and myself, we've been working in technology and also in small businesses for a long time. We over a decade in various companies. And in the last iteration, we were providing a procure to pay solution for small businesses, essentially to be making it easier to pay their vendors and suppliers around the world. When we were doing that in 2022, when the economy turned, we realized that actually they were the ones that were holding the bag, because they're the ones that are taking all the risk, essentially paid first and hoping they get their stuff, and vice versa. They weren't able to recoup those costs. And if you're actually thinking about it from a cross-border nature, you actually have no recourse. You're not going to send a $40,000 invoice to collections or send it, to sue somebody in a different country. So what we saw was a much bigger issue and a much bigger opportunity to solve for a payment problem that is really about the trust part of it, not just the speed, not just the cost, but really trying to embed a trust layer that really helps solve this problem that's very unique to the smaller businesses around the world.
I mean, it seems like there's a great need for this. So it sounds like a very relevant product and solution. I would love to talk a little bit about the origins of your business. What were some of the first roles that you brought in to your company as you were starting up, and maybe even talk me through some of the leadership types of positions and individuals that you brought on?
Yeah, I mean, we are a small company. We're a VC-backed company. We've done our seed round just recently. But if you actually, when you're a startup founder, one of the things that's really great is that you get to work with the people that you trust and you've worked with in the past. So our team, our core team, is actually other people who are experts in their fields. For example, in technology, in product, in compliance. And, when you're working on a fintech product, it is really important for us to get the user experience right for the small businesses, but also be super buttoned up in compliance and everything else that we're talking about dollars and cents and moving money around the world. So our original team here is our COO, who, I've we went to college together and have been friends for a long time. Our head of business development, who really understands all of this, but of course the product and technology were one of the most important hires that you could make in a software company, especially in fintech. So those were the first ones, and really, we had the relationships already, which is really great. We hadn't had to recruit somebody new yet for a executive level positions. I'm sure we will soon. And the benefit of that is that you have a working relationship. You already know how to work, collaborate together, and makes it easier to start up an early stage startup and grow with a team that you already trust.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about some of the challenges and maybe even talk about the risks that you're seeing within the space that you're working in.
Yeah. I mean, really, we're moving money at the end of the day, and the trusts that are related to it. But actually, there's a many layers, right? There is also to make sure that the people who are coming into your system are legit businesses. So everything around KYC, KYB, AML, fraud risk, all of that is, for a small company that starts up, it's a big deal to figure out all the different compliance needs and regulatory needs to be able to do this. Of course, to be able to, move money, you have to be pretty buttoned up and to be working with, banks and others to do so. And so there's a lot of challenges that come with just having partnerships and relying on others to be able to do what you're talking about. I've worked in consumer side, in startups where you're really building a product for the consumer and then relying on other tools, payment tools. But when you're really inside of this, in the rails, in the infrastructure, in trying to disrupt the way payments are made, you really have to consider all sorts of things, everything from UX and the flexibility around it, all the way to the compliance and regulatory nature. So I think a lot of the challenges come from that side at the in the back end. And the front end, there's just so many different ways people make payments. If you think about it, you go to your bank, you do it with your fintech, there's so many different ways. So to be able to be flexible enough to meet your customers where they are, I think is a really interesting challenge for someone who's has a product background like myself. But it is, I think, what makes it so it's a challenge, but also really great opportunity as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. A number of the items you mentioned are challenges that we're seeing many of our clients facing throughout the payments industry. I'm curious, how do you stay up to date and evolve your product with the fast pace of the regulatory environment, of the compliance environment, for example? What are some of the strategies that you've been taking to make sure that your offering is as up to date and relevant and current as possible?
Yeah, I mean, it is quite a challenge. There's so much information and everything is changing so rapidly. So I think what helps for us is that you have a vision in mind. You already know where you want to try to get to in, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from, I mean, there's different ways to get there, but there are things that are interesting to keep up with. So we use our AI tools to make sure that we're keeping up with all the different news and all the different industries and what's going on. But at the same time, we really rely, at least for myself, rely on advisors and experts that are in our network to help us think through this. Like, I'm not going to be the expert in everything that's out there for payments, cross-border, there's stablecoin, all the different Genius Act that just came out. Like, how does that impact? I think that's going to be positive, but I don't know. And so there's a lot of reliance on expertise, AI tools and whatnot to really synthesize what's important for us and how it could come together. But really it's, you are able to pick and choose what might be interesting because you have that vision for where you want to go. If I said anything in payments, it would be really overwhelming. But if I was keeping up and said, okay, how can I make it, safer, better, cheaper, faster to get money around the world for these businesses with the trust scores and reliability, there's only a certain set of things I need to absolutely keep up with. And so I think that makes it a little bit easier to filter down.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I'd love to dive in a bit more on AI in particular, because that is something that, so many of the clients we talk to are bringing up. Curious, how are you potentially incorporating AI into your product or offerings? And maybe just expand a little bit more on that topic. I'd love to hear about it because I just think that's so top of mind for so many in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I think AI is such a game changer in so many ways. And the way I think about it is one, there's sort of the internal things that we can do to make speed up. We used to joke like, can you, have a company of one and have AI do everything else, right? Or something, I think it would be really amazing to be able to use AI for all the things that are so repeatable tasks, things that you needed, to use your you don't have to use your brain for certain tasks, and you can actually save that energy and that capacity to do things that are you uniquely can do as like humans, right? So I think that to be able to have that mindset and to embed AI into as many things in the background that isn't compromising, it's not security risks and whatnot, everything. I think there's some obvious ones like marketing and, customer service and, coding and all these other things that we can do. So we definitely, that's like the first layer, I think, of AI usage that everyone should be thinking about. And then after that, it's really about how do you embed it into your product. And for us as a company that uses, that are, again, moving money around the world, and especially leveraging, banks and other rails that are very secure and very conservative in nature. It's not easy to just throw AI in there. Like no one's going to let you do that, right? But there are things around it, for example, like the fraud scoring, the compliance angles, the AML, the KYC around, like, are they actually legit businesses and whatnot? And I think we can just get smarter and smarter over time. Right now, we piece together, 5 different tools to be able to, know if they're a legit company or if transaction monitoring, if it's actually an okay transaction to let them pass through. I think AI could allow us to be able to open that up much bigger and go faster and to be smarter and take away some of that risk without just being right inside of the movement of money, which I think is going to be the last thing that we put any AI into.
Yeah, it's such a good point because I think that's a theme that we're hearing from many of our clients in the industry. It's trying to balance the innovation, which certainly, every organization wants to be innovative and forward thinking and implementing AI in a way that will help them to emerge as a leader in the market, but balancing that with the safety and the precaution and the care that needs to be taken with respect to sensitivity of data and all of those other considerations. So I think that that's such an important point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always advise like other founder friends, like at the very least, start playing with it for yourself. Like think about the things you do in a day to day and like, have you just made this, like, did you do something repetitive? Like, learn how to write a GPT, a tool for yourself, right? And the more you understand that, the more you understand where the data risks might be to be able to put it into the organization in a different way. And so I do think it's just like beginning, beginning of all of this, and it's super exciting. But yeah, definitely cautiously optimistic about putting it into our product, and probably won't be really part of it until a little bit later in our roadmap.
Yeah, and it makes sense to take that measured approach that you're describing, which, first maybe steps such as using AI in internal processes or, to help draft marketing materials, for instance, or some of the other examples you gave, and then, moving forward cautiously in that regard. So I know that's great. I'd love to pivot a little bit and talk a little bit more about your customers and how you incorporate customer feedback into your product. What does that look like at LiquidTrust, and how do you ensure that you're meeting your customers' needs as things evolve?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my background is in product development, so I think this is like really near and dear to my heart in terms of how you are able to incorporate customer feedback into what you're doing. I always think there's sort of 2 schools of thought. Is like one is you get every feedback possible, and you talk to them all the time. You make sure that you're doing what they need, and I think that's really good for iterative features. So you put something out there and you want to make it it so it makes sense and it's easy to use, and you continue to get feedback around that. There's also sort of larger things like, oh, it would be nice to have, and sort of this idea bucket that you can continue to get from your users, where you're not asking them, hey, is this feature really interesting? But what is it in your company that you're trying to achieve? And are you actually able to do that? And are there some ideas that are sparking, from those conversations? There's also things that you just like kind of push out to they're not going to tell you that they need them, but there are sort of like 20% or 10% of your thing where you want to push out a product that you believe is really needed, and then they can actually react to it, because sometimes it's harder for them to just come up with an idea and say this is what is needed. So I really try to use our customer feedback as the problem gathering, like not the solutioning, but really all about what are the main issues, what are the most urgent and important things that you're trying to solve for. It might not be part of our solution at all. It might not be something that's part of our company, but really understanding how their day-to-day is. And I think that's really helpful from a strategic perspective, as well as making a color of a button different or something like that. So I do think it's really, really important. And if you actually step back and think about how we got to where we got to, it really was around that customer feedback. It was in that 2022 time period, where one of our customers was in a different country, and they reached out to us and wanted to, send one of their clients to collections, or can you help us sue them because we need this money? And that's what sparked, that had nothing to do with our customer. That wasn't part of our offering, but they trusted us enough to have that conversation. And that's when it sparked some ideas of wait, why aren't you using an escrow? Why aren't you using letters of credit? And maybe there is an opportunity here. And so I think sometimes, those conversations are what makes it so it changes the direction of your company and your products.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I've found the same thing throughout my career in technology consulting. When I meet with clients and have conversations, I think the best outcome is usually when we listen to what our clients have to say rather than jumping in and solutioning, because I think hearing someone out, hearing what their challenges are, and just really diving into that is probably the most important thing you can do with a client. And then from that comes other ideas. But I think listening is such an important element.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most people hear a problem and they jump to, oh my God, I can solve for that. And it's a discipline to be able to say, actually, listen to what the problem is and just sit on it. And to collect all the different experiences of what they're going through. And once you do that, I feel like most people around me or probably in your network, everyone's smart enough to come up with solutions. It's more, that's not the problem. It's actually solving the right problem. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. Sometimes when you have the conversations where you're pausing more and listening more, you actually come up with something a bit more creative than if you jumped in right away. So I think that's a great point. Would love to hear a little bit about how you see your offering evolving over the next few years. What's on the horizon for LiquidTrust?
Yeah, I mean, I think I may have mentioned this before, but in generally, our customers are small businesses, but really it's all about the trust, in payments. In my mind, I think there's so much to expand just on U.S. small businesses and their relationships. And, small businesses around the world do $17 trillion in global payments. And, 2/3 of that is protected in any way, even though I believe 80% of the SWIFT payments around the world is under $100,000. There's a lot to be solving for just small business alone. However, I've always had this thought, kind of like the way buy now, pay later has taken installment payments. That's this old school thought and concept and made it into a seamless checkout option for consumers. I believe escrows that has been around, for M&A deals or real estate, we can take that idea and basically make it a digitized instant escrow that makes it so you can embed it into any kind of, payments. Imagine your checkout option having that as an option for you. And so it's a new payment method. So to me, I'm sticking with small businesses and the escrow method, and embedding that trust within the payment flow, because I believe that they need it the most. But I also believe that this innovation can really be embedded in so many different places, including, it doesn't have to be just small businesses. It could be on the consumer side. It could be in different countries. It could be in a lot of different ways. So that's my goal, is like, how do you think of trust as an infrastructure in payments versus just here's a new payment method for small businesses to protect them?
Got it. That's great. It's exciting to think about what the future may hold, right? And all the different possibilities.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really exciting for us. I mean, I believe that trust risk is a financial issue for sure, right? People are not taking, are dealing with loss and fraud and, non-delivery, non-payment and all of that. But really what it comes down to is these guys, because of that risk, because of that worry, they're not actually expanding as fast as they need to, or they're not taking that risk on a different supplier. So we have a customer who told us, there's somebody who was 30% cheaper on the supplier costs. And he wouldn't work with them because he felt so much stronger working with somebody he has worked with 20 years. It's like, if I have to work with people I've worked with for 20 years, or I have to sleep with one eye open. Like, that's a crazy sentiment. If somebody can make your business model that much better, but you're so afraid to make that jump because of that potential risk. So how do you protect them or allow them to grow, allow them to expand? And honestly, right now with the tariff situation, with all the whiplash that's going on, in some ways, that's what small businesses are getting kind of forced to do that. If that country is going to be higher, okay, now I have to, China's going to be too high. So maybe I have to go to Vietnam, or maybe I have to go find someone in Taiwan. And so it makes them actually start to do this. And could you help them expand their thinking to go beyond? And I think right now that trust risk is a growth killer, but really it doesn't have to be, and it could give people confidence to expand and pursue opportunities that they want with that confidence and that peace of mind.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a great point. And I think with so much changing in the industry and in the regulatory environment, and as you mentioned, there's geopolitical impacts as well. I think, certainly what you're talking about and what your company offers is certainly meeting a need for sure. Let's shift gears a little bit. I know we only have a little bit of time left together, but we'd love to talk a little bit more about leadership and lessons learned. So as a startup founder, tell me a little bit about some lessons learned, or any advice that you may want to share to perhaps aspiring fintech entrepreneurs out there.
Well, I was going to say, don't do it. No, I mean, I think being an entrepreneur is an interesting journey, right? It's for me, I can't imagine doing anything else. I believe this is what I was meant to do. So, and if you believe that, and if you have an idea, you have a thought, like, definitely go for it. Right. I'm always champion of all the different people who want to be founders. However, there's best practices. There's ways to set yourself up for success. It's not that you're going to be guaranteed success, but why not give yourself the best chance? And the way you do that is to be really quick and iterative, and to be, not to be in this academics, mode of like thinking about what the research and the opportunities. It's really going out there, as we talked about, talking to customers, understanding the problem, figuring out what you can uniquely solve, right? And then trying to, listen as much as possible to figure out where the opportunity is for you. I think the biggest thing people do is they have these theoretical ideas, and then they said they're going to go all in. But actually, once you there's a method to how people start companies. You talk to the customers, and then you figure out what the market is. And if you can kind of play, there's variations on it, but there's a playbook for a reason. And so I think it's really helpful to go through that. One of the second one that I always tell people, and I think every third time founder will tell you, especially if they're very product oriented, is that distribution and sales and marketing should be more than half of your time. Like, most founders like myself who have product or tech background, you want to just build, right? You want to solve for it, you want to build, and you have the coolest little gadget or you have the coolest solution. But unless you solve for how you're going to get it to your customers, get it to, the go-to-market side, I think, you're bound to fail, right? So no matter what, I think, it's almost like you're better off, if you're going to go 80-20, you're better off doing marketing and sales and go to market for the 80%, which is very against your nature to do that. But I think that actually sets it up for success. And of course, the last part is just having a team. Like, you can't do it alone. This is a team sport. And then letting yourself sort of like go ups and downs. And if you fail, it's okay. It's part of the game. Like, that's always like, it's really hard on most of founders' egos to be able to, go through that down point. And of course, if you have the team and if you have, have the right mindset that you could potentially fail at it, then you can swing for the fences and not feel like you're playing a game and you want to make this happen. It's really exciting. So yeah, I really hope everybody does it, but I know it's not for everybody. So
yeah, I think that, that point about building the team is, I think, so important. And it goes back to one of the things I think you mentioned even up front in terms of the types of roles you brought in initially and the leaders that you brought in when you were first building the company. I think that's so important. And I see it, I can talk even from my own career. I always give the advice that people should have a personal board of directors, almost like an informal team of people that are advising you on your career. And I think that could probably be, something that's mirrored for the path of a startup, founder, perhaps, where you really do need that team because you can't do it all yourself, right?
Yeah, for sure. I have a view on how to do a team building, though, like at a startup, because we're in this modern environment where not everything is about employees. You have the access to advisors and consultants and agencies and dev shops and all of that. I mean, the idea of building a team, like a core team that is it's especially early. I'm not talking like Series B, Series C, but early, who are generalists, they're good at what they know, but they're also pretty general. They can dive deep into a subject, but they can do details, they can do strategy, they understand how to go across different industries. And if you have a team like that work well together, you can always add the expertise, I feel like, around you. And so like, oh, you need global payments expertise. Okay, I'm going to go find the advisors that do that. Oh, I need somebody who can build this integration into these, core systems, right? Like, let's go find the dev shop to do that. And I think that gives you all the flexibility it's one of the things you can do to punch above your weight and to compete with a larger company. And so I think the team building part is really interesting, and who you actually bring into the fold, but you don't have to make everybody a full-time employee to make this work. You can really have more of a liquid workforce that is around you to compete well. And I think that's what I believe I do that well. And I believe there's a lot of founders who do that well to, have their cash go a long way.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think, tapping into your network and leveraging those contacts, I think, is certainly something that would be very important in this type of, ramp up of a startup. So that's great. Good. Well, I think we're winding down our time, but I really wanted to thank you for having this conversation with me. I really enjoyed speaking with you and hearing about LiquidTrust. Do you want to share any closing remarks before we conclude?
No, I mean, I thank you for having me. I really appreciate the time. It's for me, LiquidTrust, we're at the, early part of the journey here, but we're super excited about the potential. And we believe that it's a huge value add. It's like, very specially designed for the businesses that we've been serving across many companies for a long time. Our team has all been small business owners, right? We all understand the needs really, in depth. And so we're just excited that this thing is going to be, a value add and really change the game for, many businesses and around the world. So yeah, super excited to have this good time to talk to you, but also really excited about the opportunity ahead for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you.